Alright, episode 3 of the rapid climb to 2200. We've got another Vienna. Awesome. This is a bit faster paced than a lot of my other videos, but we'll still have the post-game analysis, and hopefully we should be able to play like 3 or 4 games in one video, which is a nice change because it's far more... it's far quicker. Far more... I don't know. Whatever. Okay, we have the... Bishop c5 variation of the Vienna, which leads to a difficult position for black, and we could get one of the very interesting lines of the Vienna after queen to f6. Now, I think the best move is king to f8 here for black, just defending g7. Also, g6 is viable, although I think g6, I prefer that from the white side. But after queen f6, we can go knight to d5, and this is obviously prep, because I'm not just going to give up the f2 pawn with check without knowing that it's good for us. And I think this position is something like +1, but it's still very difficult, and white can very easily lose this position, because there are many times where, depending on what black plays, we have like only moves to where it'll be like the best move is like +1.5, and then the second best move is like -3, right? It's one of those types of positions where it's just absolute chaos. I mean, on move 6, there's a queen on f2, right? There's a queen on f2. There's weaknesses on c7, on g7, on f7. Our king can't castle. The black king will probably have to go to f8. It depends what he plays. He does go king to f8. So neither king can castle on move 6. That's, pretty nuts. So, okay, I think knight to h3 is the way to go here. Developing with tempo, of course. This is defended. By the way, the only reason this line works is because f1 is covered by the bishop, so there's no queen to f1 checkmate. But it's something you've got to be careful of. But, okay, king to f8, knight to h3, hitting the queen. Queen, I think, has to go back to d4. I don't think there's any other squares. And then we want to play pawn to d3, which threatens pawn c3, which would trap the queen. And, yeah, I mean, it's absolute chaos, these types of positions. I really, really enjoy them. And I initially learned this from a Gotham chess course that I did quite a while ago, maybe 4 years ago. I probably booked up on it again about a year or two ago, though, because some of these lines can be quite confusing. But mostly I've just learned it by actually playing it and just analyzing my games afterwards and seeing where the computer says I messed up and why the thing that I played wasn't good and why I should be playing it a different way. Because that's how you use computers to analyze your games, right? You need to understand the reasoning behind what they're saying. A bit confused as to why my opponent is taking so long here, because he may be considering pawn d6, counter-attacking my queen and knight, but it doesn't work, because if pawn d6, I can take the queen, and if he takes my queen on g4, I can take with my knight, and therefore you don't have bishop takes f2 at the end of the line, and I'm up a whole piece. So pawn d3, securing e4 and c4. The queen has no safe moves, everything is covered. And if black does nothing, let's say he plays, I don't know, pawn to a6, then pawn c3 will, of course, trap the queen. There's an interesting line after pawn d6, challenging my queen and my knight. I think it goes like pawn d6, queen f3, bishop h3, and rook f1, where basically the problem is that we can't let the queen come to f2. Because after bishop h3, if we play gh3 or queen h3, the queen can come to f2 and offer a queen trade. And then we're just down a pawn. And yeah, we can probably win c7. But the black queen is almost trapped. We just need a little bit of time. A little bit of time. So if bishop h3, rook f1, we threaten checkmate. I believe I'm playing this correctly. We threaten checkmate on f7, but we also cover the f2 square. So let's say my opponent goes bishop to e6, trying to cover f7 and save the bishop. Then pawn c3 should just trap the black queen. And if bishop takes d5, I think we can probably just take back, actually. I don't think we even have to take the queen, because we're threatening checkmate as well. And yeah, this is just one of the many, many reasons that I love the Vienna. And I mean, don't get me wrong, this is preparation, of course. I have memorized these moves, but there's been many times in the past where I've played this line incorrectly because I've forgotten the moves, because I don't actually understand the reasoning behind the moves, if that makes sense. It's far easier to memorize the moves if you know why they're being played. I hope that makes sense. So, okay, pawn c3, we now trap the black queen. And like I said, after bishop d5, I think we can just play bishop d5. The only check is on a4, and then we can just go pawn b3 or bishop b3, which hits the queen. So you have f7 hanging with checkmate and the queen hanging, so I don't think it matters. And everything else is obviously losing, because the most that black can get is 2 pieces for the queen, which is not enough, because 1, we have a very strong center. 2, the black king is very vulnerable. 3, how is he going to develop like the h8 rook, for example? It's unclear. So, okay, bishop takes d5. Of course, we can't take because the bishop covers. So I think bishop takes d5. We could take the black queen, but, you know, something like take, knight takes. We're getting ourselves into trouble there, which is unnecessary. d3 is covered by our queen, of course. e3 is still covered by the bishop, although that would hang mate anyway. So black has to stop checkmate with a move like f6. Knight to h6 won't do because of bishop takes h6. And yeah, it's quite simply checkmate is hanging and the queen is hanging, so black gives up the queen for the bishop because that prevents checkmate. But obviously this is not enough at all. Bishop h6? Sorry, bishop g5, pawn f6, bishop e3. B4, bishop b6, a4, a5. Let's go b4. I think we want to open the position up so that our rooks can really dominate the game. c4 looking for c5 looks interesting. If a4, a5, b5... I think we just go bishop e3, offering a bishop trade. Okay, f6. Taking the pressure off of f7. Does stop the knight from coming to f6, though, which I thought he may have wanted to do. Although I suppose then bishop g5 is quite strong. I see no reason not to just expand. If we take, then a takes and the rook opens up. I mean, don't get me wrong, we should be winning regardless. Black obviously has 2 knights and a pawn for our queen, which shouldn't be enough, but knights can be tricky, so we don't want to give him anything unnecessarily. And we also want to open up the board, which is why I'm pushing all these pawns, because I want to make pawn breaks. Yeah, I want to break open the position so that my queen can dominate the knights, because in closed positions, the knights operate quite well. In open positions, not so much. So I want to play moves like d4. Oh, a5 looks very strong. a5, b5. Maybe b5 is better, preparing a5 and stopping him from going here. c5 is also tempting. For the time being, he can go for this, but then... Oh, that would hang knight c3. See, this is what I mean. Knights are very tricky. c5, knight d5, queen f3. If knight c3, king c2. There's just a knight and a rook both hanging. If c5, knight d5, queen f3, pawn c6, pawn d6. I don't know. I think I'm going to go b5. You just can't stop a5. You can go a6. And then I think I probably just got... Oh, I completely missed knight b7. Oh, that's really annoying. I completely missed that. That was really silly. The knight is amazing now. Okay, I'm being an idiot. Let's just throw our pawns at the Black King. Let's just do that. That will be easier. I suppose if knight c5, then a5 is playable, though. Okay, knight g6, looking at the f4 square, which makes sense. If g5, knight here, take. Half tempted to sack the rook for the knight, but maybe it doesn't make sense. I'm not sure if d4 accomplishes much. Although it does open the position, so that can't be a bad thing. Let's go d4. Rook e8, maybe? No. h6, okay. Stopping g5, interesting. The knight's undefended, but there's no good way to exploit it. I'm tempted to run my king over here to connect the rooks. Let's do it. Let's go king c2, get the rooks connected. The king can probably defend some pawns. Yeah, I've mishandled this position. It should be okay, but I have mishandled it. That looks nice. Trying to infiltrate on the light squares. If we get to like d7, that's going to be an issue for black. Okay, let's go queen f5. I guess he's trying to give himself the option of rook e7. Yeah. Not sure queen h5 really accomplishes much. This pawn is hanging. Okay, I'm just going to take. Maybe I'm giving him play on the e-file. But then again, I can try and facilitate trades. Give a check. Oh, wait. If here, then here, my queen is trapped. That wouldn't be good. I'm going to have to return to f5. Playing some silly moves. Yeah, now I can't challenge on the e-file. Oh, what am I doing? Rook f2, maybe? I think if he trades a pair of rooks, it probably benefits me. Probably benefits me. g5 is potentially on the way. Making this difficult for myself. I don't really know why, but also there's no increment, so my opponent may run out of time trying to figure this position out. It's certainly more difficult for him, because if he lets my queen in a bad way, in like by playing one bad move, then the game is over. I don't think the same can necessarily be said for his knights, but they are definitely annoying. That is for sure. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, please drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. And please let me know what you think of this format rather than the normal 15-minute plus 10-second game. Having like several 10-minute plus 0. Tell me if you prefer that or not. And my opponent's clock keeps ticking down, which is not good for him. It's unclear how he should continue, I think, because if knight to a5, I can probably just play... Oh, I've got to be careful, though. If king c3, rook e3, king b4, I can get checkmated. That's true. That's true. Maybe I just give him the c4 pawn. If knight c5, he allows a5. Knight a5... King c3, rook check, king d4. I, of course, am happy to trade my queen for the 2 rooks if a move like rook e4 check. More than happy to do that. Maybe my king is quite safe on d4. Difficult for the knights to attack it because they'd have to be on one of these squares, all of which they can't really get to. So d4 might be the best square for my king. Oddly enough. Defending c4. I think so. Yeah, my opponent is spending way too much time because there's no increment. Like, he's just going to run out of time no matter what he does at this point. Yeah, I mean, like, down to 20 seconds. I mean, he has no good counterplay. Rook e2 looks losing after take king d3. Then he has no good control over the e-file. The rook will have to return to e7 to stop queen to d7. He's just going to lose. I guess this is him giving up. He's just let his time run out. Okay, let's do a brief analysis of the game. Black is better here. Oh my god, black is better? How did I go so wrong there? So, the opening was great. We got everything we wanted. Just pawn d3, queen f3, rook f1. Wait, you can take here. Wait, why? Queen f2, bishop f2, rook f1, bishop b6. Knight b6. Oh, we can take here and then take on c7, I guess. And the rook is just way too strong. Okay, makes sense. But this is also completely winning. Queen takes, e takes, knight d8. And here, I went wrong somewhere. This is all fine. b5 is wrong. I should have gone a5. Yeah, I definitely should have gone a5. Why did I not? I think I was concerned about b5. And if I take, then take. But I don't have to worry, because if take, I can take back. The engine even doesn't mind this. I saw this kind of line. I don't know why I was concerned about it, because there's just 2 hanging pieces. But b5, yeah, definitely not the way to go. d4 is not great either. Better is g5. I didn't know what to do after knight to f4, but the engine does say just give the rook up. Which I had considered, but I just thought, I don't know, the rooks get to the e-file, and that looks like a problem. Computer doesn't think so. If take, rook f2. Oh, there's no good way to defend. h6, king c2 is very bad. a5, and if knight a5, c5. I saw this as a possibility, but I didn't think it worked because of ed4. And if I take, then he can just take. And I thought this was problematic. The engine finds a rook sacrifice because we pick up the knight and we have good compensation, like something like king g8, and apparently it's mate in 13 after rook to a2. King c2 is wrong. Rook e8, queen d3, king f7. Okay, queen f5 is really, really bad. I just need to challenge the e-file, which makes sense. Which does make sense. And if take... I think I was concerned about knight c5. But I can just play a5, and if take... I guess the pawn isn't very impressive. And the engine just says queen c3, and if black pushes, then we infiltrate over here. and we get rid of black's only counterplay, which is on the e-file. If the knight comes to e5, then I mean, we'll just take on c7 and everything crumbles. The queen f5 is wrong. Rook e7. I need to go rook a to e1. I need to challenge the e-file. Taking is bad. Queen d7 is not good either. Better is queen to f2. And if black doubles up, then I can challenge him because I have sufficient support. But I didn't realize that after queen c6, knight a5, my queen was getting trapped. Because that was my initial plan. But yeah, my queen just gets trapped. So I realized I had to retreat. Rook f2. Here, black needs to play knight c5. And after a5, rook e4. If king c3, then I'm completely lost. After rook e5. And if I move the queen, oh, then I get hit with knight e4 check. Yeah, my opponent just runs out of time. I was expecting a move like knight a5. I thought I was good here after king c3. I thought I could even put my king on... Oh, of course I can't do that. There's knight to b3 check. Oh. Well, luckily my opponent ran out of time. Okay, well, I mean, this is the thing, like, 2,000 rated players, they're bloody good. Even if you get a winning position, they're going to keep fighting. But, okay, we've got a Caro in the second game. Exchange variation, alright. Let's go knight c6. I think this is just a favorable version for us. This is like a dream version of the exchange. Just trade dart squared bishops. And our bishop on g4 is perfect. We get it outside of the pawn chain, put all of our pawns on light squares, and we're just happy. Question is here, do I take or go bishop h5? If bishop h5, g4, bishop g6, yeah, I think that's fine. Taking is probably also fine, but I'd rather not if I don't have to. Okay. Knight e5, sorry, pawn e5 is tempting, threatening pawn e4, but if g4, not a massive fan of it. I think knight f6 is easier. 22. It's just castle. Bishop c2, okay, he's trying to just build a battery, I guess. I don't think it's that big a deal. Let's go rook c8 with threats of knight d4. Where the knight can't take because of bishop takes e2, and the pawn can take, but then you lose the bishop on c2, and I have an incredibly active rook. Very common idea in these Caro Kann exchange structures with a rook on c8 and a knight. Yes, and now that would happen, so we can't do that. We could still play knight to b4, though, because the bishop would hang. Wait, should I take with the h-pawn? Or the f-pawn? I'm actually tempted to take with the f-pawn. If h takes... If g5, then knight h5, no issue. If h takes an h4... Can I take? Knight g4. Yeah, I can reroute to f5. That should be okay. Alright, knight e5. Interesting. I think knight d7 is reasonable. For knight d7, pawn f4. Take. Queen e7, pawn h4, stopping queen h4. Pawn f6, pawn h5. Take. It's interesting. You can't really castle queenside because of knight d4, and the c-pawn is pinned. Does knight e4 work? Knight e4, d e4, queen e4, knight e5, queen e5, queen e5, d e5. Rook c5, pawn f4. I don't think so. I mean, g5 is interesting, actually, because if take, then rook e5 comes with check, and we pick the g-pawn back up, and the material is equal. But if g5... oh, that's interesting, actually. Maybe knight e4 is the way to go. Knight e4, knight... Because if knight e4 and... I don't know, knight c6... then probably just knight d2. And then that's just equal. So knight e4, if knight e4 and like knight f3, then I mean we have a fantastic knight on e4. That's very, very good. Knight e4, d e4, queen e4. If he takes with the pawn rather than the queen, queen d5 hits a2, hits the rook, keeps pressure on e5. How does he deal with that? Can't castle queen side. If he castles king side, rook d8, rook d1. Then I can take on a2, maybe? And if this rook comes to d1... he's probably okay. So maybe that's not a good strategy. But if knight e7, pawn f4 is concerning... I think I should still go for it. He does go pawn f4, blitzes it out. What, pawn g5? Pawn g5, take, take, take. Not a fan. What was my plan here initially? I think it was to take. Knight takes, f takes. Queen e7, pawn h4. Pawn g5 is interesting. Queen e7, pawn h4, pawn g5, pawn h5. Something like f6. Pawn h6. What about the immediate queen e7? Pawn h4. I'm not sure what else we're achieving. Let's take. I still think it's the best plan of action. Followed by queen e7. Sorry, I don't think you can do that. Isn't this an issue? Knight d4. I guess you can just ignore me. Move your queen to like d3, let's say. And then continue your attack. It's a strategy. Queen c5 looks interesting. If take, then take. You can't take because of the pin. Move the king. Well, I thought I had knight b3. If you take, then I take the queen. If you take my queen, I can take on d2 check first, and I end up a pawn. If you move your queen to, let's say, I don't know, f4, then what? Knight d2, rook d2, and then we play on. Yeah, you can go to g3 as well. Let's take. Rook d8, d4 looks quite nice. Do I have time? Rook d8, h4, d4, h5, take. Yeah, I think I strike first. I think I strike first here with d4. This is very typical of opposite side castling positions, where I think I'm better though, because one, I'm up a pawn, of course, which is consequential, because if pieces come off the board and we go into like a rook endgame, I should be better. Okay, that's a good move. When I didn't consider, and I probably should have, actually. Yeah, that is a very good move. I don't really have a good way of defending, do I? Maybe rook d5? Take? Not happy with how I've done that. I can't take and try and play c2 check because his rook d8 comes with check. d3, rook d3, rook d3, rook d3. I'm just giving away the d file. Rook d5, if rook d5, then I can double up. Rook d5, cd5. I've got to make a decision. Because, remember, there's no increment. So I could be in a bit of trouble here. Let's go queen c4. Not allow anything to come to the c file. Keep pressure on a2, on d4. Okay, queen trade. Interesting. Do I want a queen trade? Probably. Probably. Alright. I'm not too concerned about his pawns over here. I don't think they're a big deal. I think d4 will be perennially weak. I want to play rook h8. Or do I? Maybe I've messed up. I don't know. I think this is slightly wrong. But... I think rook to f3 is the only move. Otherwise, I'll play rook f5. If rook f3, rook f5, take. Rook g3. Or... Sorry, no. No, you can't defend. Okay, this is alright then. Okay, let's take. Take, then take. So, we'll be up a pawn. However, I have no time on the clock, so... It's probably a draw. Although his king isn't very active, so... I don't know. Let's cut the king off. We might be winning, actually. Not sure if that's a good move, but... Trying to slow down his advances. Rook trade should be winning. Yeah, this should be winning. Because we force a rook trade now. Got no time, though. And remember, there's no increment. 0 increment. 14.8 seconds. Can we secure it? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Hopefully. And he's got all the time in the world. Okay. Check. Pick the pawn up. Push. Take. Come back. Yeah, there we go. Oof, very nice. That was a very clean win. Yeah, so I assume we must have been winning for a good while in that endgame. I think my plan of just giving the pawns up was the way to go. Yeah, the engine loves it. It does like b6 as well, because it slows down how quickly black can take all the pawns. It's not that big a deal, but I think we handled this perfectly. Yeah, and then once the rook trade is secured, it's completely game over. I have a quicker checkmate, because after this I can just go king up and I mate him, but well, you know, it is what it is. Let's just do a quick analysis, and then we'll have a third game. Yeah, 91.1% accuracy for us. That's pretty damn good. 85.1 for my opponent. So this is like a very favorable exchange variation for black. I mean, on move 5, we are dead equal, which with the black pieces, so that's damn good. Pawn e6, engine prefers queen c7. Oh, I should have played that. I know that. Okay, whatever. Bishop f4, bishop b6, take, h3, bishop h5. Taking on f3 was also fine. Knight g to e7 is slightly better. The knight is better placed here, I guess. Good to know for the future. Queen e2, castles. Bishop c2 is a mistake. It doesn't really make any sense. Rook ac8 is a miss, though. Rook fe8 or e5 are better. I think I did consider e5, but what happens after rook e8 castles, e5, d takes, knight takes, queen b5, take. Oh, there's queen f4. Oh, very nice. And then we win a pawn. But even so, this doesn't... I mean, we don't win a pawn just yet, but we probably will. It feels dangerous, but we probably are okay, because as long as we just go h6 to stop this pawn coming through, there's not actually a breakthrough. But okay, rook ac8, g4 is basically the only move. Because otherwise we'll play knight takes d4. So bishop g6, h takes is better. I was strongly considering f takes, but h takes is better. I thought that g5 was horrific because of knight to h5, and you're never getting through. And I thought h4, we can go ahead and take on g4, and we should be fine. After h5, we have e5. We also have queen to f4. But the engine basically says it's not a big deal. If we take, then white does get some play, though. We're still better. Okay, knight e5 is best. Knight d7 is fine. f4. Taking is inaccurate, but it's not that big a deal. Queen e7 is bad, though. We need to go queen c7. And if h4? f6. Oh, so if take, we have this. Ah, right, that's the difference. Whereas on e7, we don't get that. If h4, f6, if take, we don't have queen g3 check. And if castles, we still get knight d4, though. So castles, queenside is what my opponent played. Blundering, knight takes d4. Queen e3. And I was very happy to find queen c5, which is the best move. King b1, knight b3 is considered brilliant. I don't think it's brilliant, but it's certainly a very cool move. If queen c5, then I probably take on d2. I can take on c5 with the knight as well, but I'd rather trade pieces, to be honest. But queen g3, knight d2, rook d2. Rook fd8 is a mistake. b5 is the way to go. And after h4, b4... Ah, that's much better. It's a much better version, apparently. h5, what's the idea? Oh, there's queen e4 check. Right. Here, I missed the fact that after d4, there's rook hd1. Now, if you don't have rook hd1, The second best move is rook c1, for example, and here we're completely winning. I just completely blanked on rook hd1. Rook d5 is the best move. cd4. Hold on. Wait, why is this so good? Oh, wow, we just back rank. I completely missed that. But so did my opponent. So did my opponent. I went queen c4. Wait, does it actually work, though? It does. The engine's having a hard time here for some reason. But, okay. Queen c4. Queen d3. Taking is good. King f8. h5. Take, king e7. Rook g1. Rook h8. Take. I was concerned about rook f3. But then I realized rook f5 is good. Because after take, you can't defend your pawn. You simply can't defend. And if rook g5, king e6, protecting the pawns, you still can't go rook to g4. And I'm going to win both pawns and just push. And your king is so out of the game. That's the major issue. I put him with rook g1. We took on e5, which is the only winning move. e5, rook d3, rook e1. Rook d2 is inaccurate, but, you know, it's not that big a deal. a3. And I just thought I could bring my king in. And now the rook is pinned down to the pawn. We win the pawn. We sacrifice our queenside pawns and just throw the kingside forward. And obviously we saw this is completely winning. And I'm very, very low on time. So although there's many better ways to checkmate my opponent, the easiest to me was just to force the king to the back rank and then push the pawn for a ladder checkmate. So yeah, another very interesting game. And let's jump into the third and final game as we bear towards 2100. Big opponent. Big opponent. All right. Get the Pirc or the Pirc or whatever. I like to play a Vienna setup against this to encourage e5 or to encourage a Sicilian because I know both of those structures. Let's see. He kind of has to choose one, really. Okay, bishop g4. We can just go h3. Get the bishop pair. It's not that big a deal, but it's nice. I think we can just castle. And go queen to f2. Yeah, so he has to choose one at some point. But is this not just allowing f5? This looks problematic. Oh, wait, no. Bloody hell, I'm an idiot. The knight's covering. Oof. Excuse me. FG6? You can't take because of the pin. This should be game over. My opponent resigns. Just like that. 2200, guys. 2200. Yeah, I think f5 was wrong because of knight d4. No, it's actually the second best move. The queen f2 immediately is slightly better to prepare f5. But after knight d4, queen f2... gf5, ef5. This is fine. We do have a lot of pressure. And yeah, this is... I mean, of course, my opponent made a silly move. h6 was a horrible, horrible move. And he resigns immediately afterwards because he realizes how bad it is. But even if he doesn't play that, even if he plays... I mean, knight d4 is the only move to even try to fight here. But even if you do find this, I mean, this is such a hard position. My bishops are monsters. The f-file is going to be an issue. f7 and f6 are completely compromised in every single line, unless he's going to play perfectly, which clearly he didn't. And yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go for a fourth game. Might as well, since that was so quick. If we win this, we hit 2100 as well. Okay, Caro Kann. Let's have it. Let's be having you. Which variation? Come on. Alright, Tartkower. We had a Tartkower in the last video as well, which was very instructive, so check that out if you're interested. But for now, let's watch this video, eh? Alright. He could go knight g5, opting for the alien gambit, and then I get to show you my alien gambit prep, which I do have a whole video on, running through all the important lines and ideas. Okay, knight g3 isn't that good. We can go h5 against this. And if h4, the knight has to go back to e2, which is very uncomfortable. I've had some games like knight f3, pawn h4, knight e2, I think h3 is the best move in that position. And the white pieces are just stumbling over each other really, really badly. Bishop 8. No, this isn't good. This isn't good. The knight is just forced back, which stunts the development of the pieces. Okay. Alright, well, bishop f5 looks pretty good to me. Queen b6 looks viable. Maybe we don't want to step into d5 ideas. Knight d5 looks good, going after the bishop. Yeah, I think I like that. Maybe preparing queen b6 so that d5 isn't a problem anymore because there's no discovered attack. Yeah, okay, queen d2. My opponent says, okay, you can have the bishop if you want it. Do I want it? I don't know. It's not going anywhere, is it? If it goes to f5, I can still take it. If it goes to g5, it's not really doing anything. So I don't think it's a massive rush. If queen b6 castle queenside, I assume is the idea. Bishop f5. I mean, we just have good play, don't we? And the white pieces are struggling to develop. h3 is a threat if white develops in a bad way. We could even consider knight to a6. Could even consider knight a6. Knight a6, castle queenside. I think I'm going to start with bishop f5. Can't be a bad move. c2 is going to be useful to attack. And if my opponent does castle queenside, then we're discouraging moves like c3 and c4, which exert control over the center, because he could compromise his light squares around the king. g4. What? Well, surely we take en passant. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer. We let this knight come to g3, sure. I understand that, but I don't think it matters, because after bishop g6, you can't really challenge my bishop unless you go bishop to d3, which is fine. I don't mind that. And this is just an issue. This is going to be a forever problem. I'm just structurally better. Like, he has weak pawns on the king side. I have an open h-file to go after the h-pawn. It's an interesting move. It's an interesting move. I mean, if f5, I can just go bishop h5 anyway. It's not that big a deal. If e6, I just stop this. I guess he can put a knight on f3, and he has good control over the dark squares, but I don't think it's that impressive. I don't think I need to panic. Structurally, we are very sound, and white is not very structurally sound. We can take this bishop whenever we want. It may go back to f2, but I don't think that's really a problem. Bishop d6. Bears down on f4. He can't go c4 because of bishop b4 pinning the queen to the king. He's also making it hard for him to castle queenside because of how weak this diagonal is. I mean, queen a5 looks crushing. Castle queenside, queen a5, you don't have king b1, so yeah, he offers me a bishop trade. But does that not just hang a pawn? Wait, knight takes is probably better. Just hangs a pawn. And yeah, we're up a clean pawn. This has to be good. Has to be good. I guess this is how we deal with dubious Caro Kann lines. Queen f1. Wow, that's a desperate move. Queen g5 is interesting. Trying to play knight g2 check and pick up the bishop. Probably easier just to retreat. Knight e4. Rook h2. Looks good. We could even go knight d3 check. And after queen takes, bishop takes g3. Actually, I think I like that. Knight d3 check is a pretty gangster move as well. I'm sure knight d5 was also completely fine. To me, though, this feels very winning. Because we're liquidating pieces and we're going to be up 2 pawns, probably. And the white king can't castle. Okay. Take. Sure, why not? Queen h4. I mean, you can go Queen g3 if you want and play take and try and play that endgame. I might not trade the queens though. If Queen g3, half tempted to play Queen e4, keeps the king on the board. Sorry, the queen's on the board. I mean, that king is just never finding shelter. Rook h6, rook g6, rook g2 looks very nice. Knight f3 is on the way. Kick my queen. Queen h5 should be fine. Could give this check, trying to come into g2. Queen f3 is probably forced. Then do I trade queens? Take. Do I want to trade queens? I don't think so. I don't think I do. I mean, I know I'll be up a pawn in what's probably a winning endgame, but there's still a lot of variables that I don't want to have to deal with. Oh, Queen f4 looks very strong. Yeah. h2 is under attack. The knight is... we have a lot of pressure. Queen e3, okay. Maybe this is a favorable trade. Yeah, I think this is a more favorable trade because we have more time to develop the pieces now. Probably better to keep my king in the center. Go king e7. Pawn g6. Go knight f6. We should be able to grind this down. Rook h5 followed by rook h8 looks pretty good to me. You can't play rook to f4 defending because of knight to d5 check. So the only good way to defend would probably be knight to f3. But then you just admit that you're worse. I mean, obviously white is worse, but you give up on the open f file then. Quite like rook to f5. Just applying pressure. The knight can always jump in to many, many squares. There's so many weaknesses. And again, as I mentioned way, way earlier in the game, when the material was still equal, we're just far more structurally sound, and the open H file is a big problem for for white, which again I mentioned ages ago. White can't run away with the king very easily because of knight e4 check followed by knight g3 forking the rooks. I'm not really sure how we should deal with this. Pawn c4, okay, you can try that. Knight g4 I don't think accomplishes anything. Knight h5 threatens knight g3, but I don't know if that's that big a deal. c5 looks nice. Trying to create a passed e-pawn. And if take, we of course take with the rook, and c4 is vulnerable. And if he pushes d5, we just take. I'm going to go c5. I like that. Maybe b5 was also viable. Although, if c5 and knight to e5 ideas, then c6 is quite weak. I mean, we do get the d5 square, though, but I don't think it's enough. Pawn a3, okay. If take. Check. King d3. Rook d8. That looks pretty good to me. King takes. Ooh, really? I think white's in trouble. Because he's running out of moves. If he goes to c3, then knight to b4 comes with check, and then we get to g3, and then I fork the rooks. Which is a big issue. If king goes back to e3, yeah, no, this is game over now. Knight e4 check, and it's done. Done, done, done. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Knight g3. And white's going to be down too much material. Going to be down not only a pawn, but the exchange. And I can probably get it to a rook versus knight endgame very easily. Like, rook g1, knight f1, rook f1, rook d3, knight h2, rook f1, knight f1, rook h3, and I'm going to be up all the pawns in the world and up the exchange. And I mean, the knight is useless. So that's the most likely sequence of events to follow. And I mean, if here, just take. Yeah, that doesn't do anything. Rook f1. And now white is down a whole rook. That also doesn't do anything. I'm just going to take on h1 because now white has no pieces. Of course, I could have taken the knight as well, but this is also completely winning. And yeah, white resigns. We hit 2100. And yeah, very, very nice. Let's do a brief analysis to get us up to the hour mark, because I know that's where we all want to be on the video time, I mean. But I think that was a very, very solid game. I think we played that pretty damn perfectly. Let's see. 88.2 for us. That's pretty good. 79.9 for my opponent. We were better all game. All game. Because after this knight g3 move, after h5, bishop e3 just isn't good. Because white loses space. Now, interestingly, the computer prefers queen b6, which was my initial plan. And I thought that b3 might be played. And I was like, I don't know, d5 is annoying, but I have queen to a5 check, and if this, I have this, so that's fine. But okay, whatever. I went knight to d5, queen to d2. I didn't want to take on e3 just yet. Bishop f5 is slightly better. g4 is a blunder. Oh, that was a free pawn. I completely missed the fact that was a free... I didn't even realize that was a free pawn. Huh. Yeah, why didn't I just take that? I'm sure many of you were screaming at me down below, because that's a bit idiotic, I've got to admit. There's no reason not to take that. But okay, whatever. I take en passant, knight g3, bishop g6, f4 is a blunder. Because of bishop c2, I missed this tactic. That's very nice. Or I could take here and then take on c2, which is also fine. But I went e6, we're still winning. c3, bishop d6, bishop d3, bishop d3, queen d3, knight f4. This is the best sequence of moves. And I mean, there's not much white can do. Queen f1. Yeah, knight d5 is actually the best move. And after bishop f2, guarding the knight, we just continue to develop. But I thought knight d3 was easier. I thought this was easier. Take, queen h4, king e2, knight d7, knight f3, queen f4 is best. And here, white has to offer a queen trade. I mean, there's very little else he can do. Let's say he goes rook g1. I mean, I can go just g6, and white has no play. h4 is what the computer recommends, which doesn't do anything anyway, because you can't push. You can try to sacrifice for some kind of attack, but, like, there just isn't anything. My king is completely safe. Like, queen g7, king d6. You have no follow-up. So, okay, my opponent offers a trade. I oblige because I thought this endgame was very easy. And yeah, just doubling up on the H-file makes sense. The computer here wants to give up the rook for the knight. I considered this move. Oh, taking isn't good? Whoa. Rook F1. And apparently, there is just enough... Wait, this loses to knight E4 check. And I get mated. So I have to go king E8. And then white gets enough counterplay. Wait, so what am I supposed to do? Take the knight then? So after rook F6, rook G5, HG5, rook H1, I'm winning. Yeah, I guess G5 is very, very weak. That's not sustainable. Rook F2, if rook G1, king F4. I guess I can slowly grind this position to some kind of win. It would be more difficult, though. I hope I would have found that. But my opponent retreats the knight. We go rook F5. C5 was also good. Now we go C5. I was expecting my opponent to take. And after something like rook C5, maybe now go for knight G5. It apparently doesn't work, but it makes sense to me. King D4, rook F5. And, you know, the game continues. Pawn A3, though, from my opponent confused me. I took on D4. I was expecting knight D4, but I thought that I had a very nice position after rook E5, because I figured the king had to go to the D file, because if he goes to the F file, I don't know, it feels very vulnerable. The king feels very vulnerable, and still probably rook D8, and if rook D1, the engine likes rook E4. But, I mean, I'm sure there's many different moves that can be played. But I thought my opponent would take with the knight and then play king D3, and I was going to play rook D8 and try and pile the pressure onto the knight. I don't know, knight H5, rook G4, pawn F5, and it's going to become very difficult to defend this knight. Like knight F4, king C3, and knight G6, for example. But, okay, my opponent took with the king. Rook D8, king C3, which allows this combination, which I was looking for a long time. Better is king E3, and after knight G4, king E2, there's knight to E5, trying to force a knight trade. And if take and king F3, I mean, we're just infiltrating the position really, really badly. Like, rook E4 probably wins. Something like F5 is game over. Yeah. Just lose the rook. White has too many weaknesses. H4 is weak, C4 is weak, B2 is weak. But okay, he allows this combination and just gives me all of his pieces, which is very kind, and then resigns. But yeah, very interesting game. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you want to see the previous episodes of this rapid climb to 2200, then check out the playlist down there. And if you want to see another very interesting Caro Kann game, then check out the video up here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in one of those videos.